Hey everybody, it's Erin here. Friday night, I finished my serial killer's choice for January, which was A Broken Promise by Linwood Barclay. Now, this book is book one of the Promise Falls trilogy, and it was awesome. You guys, it's 500 and some pages. It's about 500 pages. Let's go with that. It's about 500 pages. And there was times when I really didn't want to put it down. Like every night when I had to go to bed because I have to be adult and go to work the next morning, I really struggled putting this down. And I would go and sit and read earlier than I normally would, so that I would be able to get a lot read in that night because this book was so enthralling. This is the first time that I have read a Linwood Barclay book. He has several. This is definitely not his first book. And this series is already complete. It's a 3-book series, trilogy, and all 3 books are out. So knowing that, I kind of already had some hints about what was going on when I started the book. But it's like I had really no idea what to expect because I had never read one of his books before. So we start out with our main character. He's home from Boston. He lives in Promise Falls, New York, which I believe is in upstate New York. I don't know that area very well, but he's home from Boston. He used to work for the Boston Globe, but after his wife died, he found it really hard looking after his son and working, because he was typically working the night shift at the Boston Globe, so he hardly ever saw his son. So he left his job at the Boston Globe, moved home to live with his parents so that his parents could help him look after his son, and maybe he could afford to save some money and actually spend some time with his son. On his first day back working at the paper in Promise Falls, it gets shut down. They come in and they go, yeah, you know what, we're shutting down. We can't compete, we're done. Close the offices. So now he's unemployed. He's moved home to be with his family and take better care of his son, and now he's unemployed. So he's living with his parents. That's a bit of a detail that carries on throughout the book. I mean, he is not happy living with his parents, and in a lot of cases, his story is intertwined with his parents' story. So you actually start seeing this book from multiple points of view. He meets other people. It's 500 pages, right? There's a lot that happens in this book, but basically what happens is his mom sends him out. He's unemployed. His mom's like, hey, I'm a little busy. Do you want to go take some food to your cousin? She's not doing very good. She has face blindness, which means she doesn't recognize people's faces. So even when he goes to see her as her cousin, he has to introduce himself. And she also, we learn, lost a baby about 10 months before this story starts. So she lost a baby, and when she lost her baby, she kind of went off the deep end. And she's done some things that she would not have done, or a normal person would not have done. So when he goes to her house and he finds her with a baby that isn't hers, and what looks like a smudge of blood on the doorframe, he's instantly concerned. And so when she goes to have a shower and he's supposed to be putting the food in her freezer for her, he starts looking around and he finds the baby stroller, and in the baby stroller he finds a bill with an address and a name. So he takes his cousin and goes, and they go to this house, and the mother of what we can assume is that child, what we assume is the mother of that child, is found dead in the house. And the father of the child shows up about the same time as our main character, David, does, and they find her together, and all of a sudden, events start going downhill. David promises to look into this for his cousin. He's not employed anyway, so what difference does it make? There's a police chief. The police chief seems to have a pretty good idea what he's doing, but there's some other things happening in other parts of town. So there's an abandoned amusement park, and it's had some vandalism, and there's been some animals found killed on the university campus, and as well there is a rapist on the university campus. Well, not really a rapist, a serial groper on the university campus. And so there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of conflicts between people in the town. It's fascinating, and as the book goes, it goes along, he sneaks in a little detail. And all of a sudden you're looking at the page going, wait, what just happened? No. How did that? And then you'd have to start thinking back and going, oh. You start questioning your assumptions. So I thought it was really good that way. I think it's classified as a thriller. It's a very good suspense book. There are some thrilling aspects to it. It's definitely not a graphic or gory thriller. But I had trouble putting it down. There is a lot going on in this book, and as I said, there's 2 more books in the series. One of the many threads in this story gets resolved at the end of the book. Just one. 2 things really get resolved at the end of this book. So we find out who murdered the woman, and then there's another mystery that's related that we find out about. And other than that, everything else kind of gets carried over to the next book. And there's all these threads, and you're like really questioning what's going on and how much the perpetrator of the first mystery that gets solved, how much they had to do with everything else that's going on. But we won't find out till the next book. And I'm not usually one for a cliffhanger at the end of a book like this, so I'm glad, first of all, that the next book is already out and the 3rd book's already out, because it means that I can get through these without having to wait a huge amount of time in between readings. So, I highly recommend this book if you like thrillers or mysteries. Yeah, the great thing, he's a Canadian author. Yeah, he is. He's a Canadian author. He has many more books. This is one of his series. And then he's got a bunch of other books that look like they're standalones, but I feel like some of them aren't. Like, I thought No Safe House was the second in a series. So, regardless, I think Linwood Barclay, I'm so glad I've been introduced to him thanks to BookTube, and that I finally found some time to get around to this book and some motivation reading it with all of you. So, let me know what you thought of this book, and yeah, I'd be happy to hear from you guys. If not, I'm going to be continuing this book with this series in February for serial killers. So yeah, look forward to that. We're going to be talking about the next book in this series, which is Far From True. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.